Have you been considering buying a fire damaged property? I know as an investor, and if you have never done this before, this can be a very, very scary type of property to purchase. You just don't know what you're getting into because fire damage can cause so many different problems between the framing and the flooring and the sheetrock, the electrical, the plumbing. Everything that's inside of your house can be damaged, not only by the fire, but also the smoke as well. And on top of that, whenever you have the fire department come out and spray down these fires, you're putting water all over the property as well. So now you're dealing with fire, smoke, and water damage in your property. And so there's no telling what can be behind the door. But today, I want to give you 3 simple ideas, 3 simple steps that you can use to make you feel better about buying a fire damaged property. Thanks for joining me for another episode of Empire Your Life. And on today's episode, I want to go over 3 easy steps that you can use or that you can think about when it comes to buying fire damaged properties. So that way you're not scared and you're not missing out on all the opportunities that are out there and that are available to you. Because at the end of the day, fire damaged properties are no different than any other type of distressed property that you purchase. There's a problem in place, and as an investor, you have to be a problem solver and solve that problem, and that's what creates the profit for us as investors. And so today I want to go over these 3 easy steps to make you feel a lot better. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below and become a part of the Empire Your Life community. So that way you can see other videos just like this one and continue to build your real estate empire as you continue to build the empire and the rest of your life as well. And so without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and get started with step number 1. All right, so if you've never seen a fire damaged property before, take a look behind me here, and I'll even roll through some footage just so you can take a better look. When it comes to a fire damaged property, the damage can be extensive. And on this fourplex that we purchased, there is 3 out of the 4 units that pretty much are going to be complete tear outs. We just got to completely trash out all the sheetrock, all the appliances, all the cabinets, all the flooring. Everything has to come out. But in this case, one good thing about this property is all of the framing, a lot of the 2x4s, the rafters, the joists, are in good shape. They actually did not burn that bad, to where a lot of fire damaged properties, you do get them to where they'll burn a hole straight through the roof, which usually is going to mess up a lot of your joists, your rafters, your decking on your roof, and you're going to have very extensive repairs. Not to mention that you start to get a lot more water from rain and all that comes in that hole as well. And so it creates a lot more problems for you. So we got lucky on this property that's mainly, all the framing is good. It's just mainly everything from the framing in on these units that got destroyed. And so my first step for you here is to, first off, always take a big deep breath when you're looking at these distressed properties, because you know there's going to be issues, you know there's going to be problems, and so, but you're a problem solver, and you're going to get in there and take care of the problem, and in the end be able to turn a profit on that property and put somebody in that property, whether it's a new homeowner or a tenant, that can enjoy that property for years and years to come. And so step number 1 is to basically just take a blind eye to everything that is at the property, because as you see right now, it is just in terrible condition. There is fire damaged sheetrock, insulation, you can see here behind me, belongings that were burned up. There's so much debris and trash in this property. It's almost hard to tell where to even start. And so when it goes to step number 1 here, the first thing that I want you to think about is you need to get the property to a clean slate. Because if you're looking around it right now, you're probably going to walk in here and say, no way am I going to buy that property. Look how terrible that is. I don't even know where to start. It is so terrible. Well, very simple. Step number 1, start with your clean out, your trash out, your demo, whatever you want to call it. But everything that is damaged needs to come out of the property and be placed into a dumpster. And you'll be surprised, once that property is completely empty of all of this burnt debris and trash and belongings and everything that has been destroyed during the fire damage, the smoke damage, or damage from the water when the firemen put out the fire, all of those things need to come out. And then you're going to have a clean slate to be able to walk around and really evaluate what other damage has taken place. If electrical wires are messed up, plumbing, if framing behind the sheetrock did get messed up. But again, in our case, it looks like we lucked out on the framing, but we still need to take a closer look at those other things. And so step number one, let's get this place cleaned out, and then we're going to be able to take a closer look, or at least be able to get our contractors in here to take a closer look. And that leads me into step number two. Look, I know as investors, we always want to go and use, as cheap a labor as we can, as cheap of materials as we can. Sometimes we don't use licensed contractors because we want to cut costs as much as possible. But when it comes to a fire damaged property, I strongly recommend you use a licensed and insured general contractor or contractor that can do the work for you. The biggest thing is you're going to have to pull permits on a fire damaged property, because when the fire department comes out and has to take care of, putting out a fire on a property like this, they pull all the electric meters, which then leads you to have to go through the electric company in order to get that power back on. Well, guess what? The power company isn't going to release that power to you until you go through an occupancy inspection with the permit office. Now, to go through an occupancy inspection, you're going to have to pass other inspections prior to get to that point, which means you have to have this property pretty much completely rehabbed in order for the permit office to pass your occupancy, which then allows the energy company to release your power in the end. And so, you can do this by yourself. You can do this with, somebody that's not a licensed contractor, but you're going to make this a lot harder on yourself. I am telling you from experience, the best thing you can do, and this is step number two, very important, is make sure that you use a licensed and insured contractor when it comes to fire damaged properties. That way you can know everything is done right, and you have someone that could pull those permits for you to make sure that the process from start to finish is a lot smoother for yourself. All right, so we talked about step number one. The first thing is, of course, you always take a big deep breath. But besides that, you need to go in, get all the demo, the trash out done, clean out, get it down to bare bones so you could really evaluate what you have at the property. Number two, we talked about using a licensed and insured contractor, somebody that can make sure and pull all the proper permits for you to make your process a whole lot easier and make sure the property is done right. Now, number three, I want you to imagine you have open walls, you have a contractor hired that's licensed and insured. Number three is no different than what you do on normal properties. You just do what you do. You go in and you rehab that property. You put beautiful floors, sheetrock, paint, crown molding, kitchen cabinets, appliances, doorknobs, AC work, whatever you have to do to make that property shine again and make it functional, where you could either sell it or somebody can move into it as a rental property. And so very simple here on step number three. Just do like you always do as an investor. And look, if you haven't done a renovation project before, check out my videos. I have some other videos, and I'll put a link up here to one up top that you could see to learn more about how to renovate a property, and even renovating a property, making sure that you know how to keep track of all of your expenses throughout a project. Because I tell you, if you're doing a project like this, a fire damaged fourplex, that's almost 3,500 square feet, your expenses can just go through the roof if you're not paying attention to them and you're not tracking it properly. So I'm gonna put a link up to a video up here that I think it'll help you with your renovation projects, especially on a fire damaged property like this one. And so again, step number three, do what you do best. Get in there, renovate that property, put that lipstick on it, and get it to where you can sell it or you can lease it to somebody in the end. And I also wanted to show you here behind me how, not just the fire and the smoke is what causes all the damage, but you can see here just from the water that they use to put out some of the fire in the unit next to this one has collapsed the ceiling behind me here, so you can see how the sheetrock has just fallen off. And so very, something to think about and consider is when you're dealing with fire damaged properties, it's not just the fire and the smoke. You also have to consider the water damage just from putting out the fire. And so make sure, do not forget that whenever you're looking at all your costs. whatever the distressed issue is, especially if it's specific to that property and to, you know, the well-being of that property, should I say, make sure you disclose it. And so when you go to sell it, make sure you let somebody know that this was a fire damaged property. But we did go through a licensed contractor who pulled permits and did it correctly. And so you do not have to worry, because it was passed by the permit office, it was passed by a great contractor. And so now you have a good product to be able to move on with in the future. But make sure you disclose that. You do not want to miss disclosing that and then somebody come back later and say, well, I think you did a good job here, but you didn't tell me this, and I really did not want to buy a house that had any kind of fire damage. And so make sure you always disclose any issues in a house that you're aware of. Even if you fixed it, you still need to let them know that that was a problem at some point and that you took care of it. So I hope you enjoyed this little short video. I hope you enjoyed the tour of this fire damaged house. And I hope the next time a fire damaged property comes across your desk, that you are not afraid to put an offer in and try and lock up that deal. As long as the numbers work, buy that deal. You just need to follow these 3 easy steps that we talked about here today. Number 1 being, make sure you get all that demo and that trash out done, so that way you can actually see what you have and what is the true damage at that property after all the muck and everything is taken out. Number 2, make sure you use a licensed and insured contractor, somebody that can pull permits for you and make sure all the work is done properly, and you can also make sure that everything goes a lot smoother from start to finish for yourself. And number 3 is just do what you do as a real estate investor. Get in there, put in new floors, put in paint, put new cabinets, put appliances, fix the AC, do all the regular things that you do. It's no different than what you normally do on a regular project. So do not be afraid of fire damaged properties, because a lot of people are afraid of them. And so that gives you more of an opportunity to get them at a great price and to turn it into great profit for yourself. And so I hope you enjoyed all this. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And as always, continue to get out there and build your empire. Hey, I hope you enjoyed all of this great content here. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button down below to become a part of this great community. And if you want to see more videos just like this one, look over to the side here, because they're exactly what you need to see next to continue to build your empire.